Hello, good evening, and thanks again for another edition of Ideas Exchange. Tonight we are looking at two topics. One we cannot do away with, which is trending. It's about stolen money. But one thing that should be of interest to you is that it is almost becoming obvious that every week something happens. And because of that, there are several hanging issues that appears to be resting. We are not getting periodic updates. And so it is almost becoming a mantra that we talk about this, and then soon there is another critical issue, and then we just shelve it. But unfortunately, there was an incident that happened at one of the secondary schools, and because of that, many people were thinking that it was going to water down public concern about what I call Cecilia Dapagate. But unfortunately, it didn't wash, because only yesterday there were rumors about the discovery of more cash. But as we speak tonight, we'll be speaking to an anti-graft campaigner on so far what has happened from last Friday through the weekend to what happened on Monday, Tuesday, the reactions, and the resignations, the new appointments, and what appears to be sitting on the laps of the office of the special prosecutor. Now the case is simple, that house girls have stolen money from the home of the Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources, Works and Housing. You know the story already. $1 million, 300,000 euros, expensive personal belongings at her Abelinkpe residence, and of course many things that are suggesting that maybe the money was so huge to the extent that when these girls were picking the money, nobody noticed until the husband saw this young girl hiding behind one of the doors. That prompted them to find out what has happened between July and October. Now you notice that over the period, there has been a reaction by the minister denying that the publication captured actually what was on the charge sheet, and later the charge sheet which was made public that suggested that everything we are talking about today as far as the monies that were stolen are concerned, 1 million, 300 million, 300,000 euros, and so on and so forth. Again, the minister comes to tender her resignation, and the president accepts her resignation, and then now we know that there is a new Minister for Sanitation, Works and Housing. But there are begging questions that I believe that you and I would need to consider, because when the incident was reported on July to October and the incident was made public to the police, there were things that the police could have considered. And I'm wondering whether the police really acted according to I'm coughing, but I'll try to manage it. Maybe I would have to sip some water. But what I've shared on the screen is very instructive. I'll be taking a break. When I come back, I'll come back to what I'm sharing on the screen.
Masaka! Easy on your power for Masaka promotion. There isn't a big, or you're big, Separate enter power for Masaka promotion. More day I never dial *274#. *274#. Area net choose power effort. Now select a number of drawer and put in the draw Krubia 5 Ghana cedis pay. The more as a Russia draw them when a stand a chance able to marry in a big. Hey, you're big, you're big. Every week you saw your 50,000 Ghana cedis in a chair. Hey, 50,000 Ghana cedis. Knock off you, good deal last shot. *274#. Masaka. Power for Masaka promotion. It's licensed and regulated by NLA on Caritas Lottery Platform. Kaida drawing Shashada home.
Welcome to the Royal Dazzle Event Center. With a lush and well-maintained lawn and garden, you are assured of the best serene and comfortable atmosphere to organize all your family and social events. Live the royal moments here with friends and family. The hosting capacity of 600 to 800 people makes Royal Dazzle the most versatile of places to host weddings, parties, funerals, conferences, concerts, and many more. Create your memories with us. Call us for inquiries on 055-814-8585 or 024-620-2144, or pass by and speak to any of our friendly staff. Locate us at My John, close to Zoom Lion headquarters. Royal Dazzle Event Center, creating memories.
Come back. This is Ideas Exchange. I was talking about the Cecilia Dapa Gate, and I showed something from the Financial Intelligence Center, their website, and it is very instructive because the questions that are hanging is that when the police was first informed about so much money which was stolen from the office, from the home of a government official, an appointee of government, a minister of state, what was the police immediate response? Was the police mandated to inform the police CID headquarters about this very serious crime? And of course, because so much money was involved, because if you look at the Financial Intelligence Center, their mandate is supposed to help fight money laundering, combat financing and terrorism, tracking suspicious transactions, IOCO, the Bank of Ghana, and if you check the stakeholders who are supposed to be collaborating, we have the Bank of Ghana, the Securities and Exchange Commission, National Pensions Regulatory Authority, National Insurance Commission. But let me jump. You see the Ghana Police Service, you see the Office of the Special Prosecutor, you see the Economic and Organized Crime Office. These three key institutions play critical roles. And that is why I am sharing these critical questions with you. So when the police heard this complaint, why did it take them so long a time before we saw what OSP is doing, running to the home of the former Minister for Water Resources and Sanitation? And so I'm sharing these critical questions. Was the police CID headquarters quickly notified? And was their reaction proactive? How about the Financial Intelligence Center, whose mandate is to fight money laundering, combat financing of terrorism, tracking suspicious transactions, IOCO, for example, Bank of Ghana, and so on and so forth? Did any intelligence officer, like the police investigators, consider where the money could have come from? Was it payment from real estate or sold? What business does she have? I'm making reference to Cecilia Dapa, because as a public officer, what was her mandate? What was the code of conduct? Again, was she interrogated by the police? Why, if not? And has the police been firm professionally or simply carrying orders from the minister? How about the charge sheet? What informed the amendment? Because we are hearing that the charge sheet has been amended once or twice. Now, there are other questions. Now, COVID funds, government releases, and we know that sometime around 2020, 2021, government announced free water for many of us because of COVID. And I know that the stakeholders acknowledged that some money has been released. So I'm sharing this particular one on the screen. You notice that government paid some money within that period for the dredging of the Odor River. And unfortunately, many people are now linking several things to what has happened. But we all know that the Special Prosecutor's Office obviously went to the homes of the former sanitation minister. So in the video that you see them is rushing out of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. And till date, we are told that they spent hours moving from the cantonment residence to the former minister's house at Abelenkpe. And then we are also told that they left her or released her after her arrest and interrogation around 10 p.m. And rumors arrive that the minister had some more money in the house, and that has been discovered, and it took 5 hours to count. Now, what is now raising eyebrows is the response that has come from the office of the special prosecutor with regards to the arrest, the interrogation, and that didn't address the rumor which is rife that they found more money and it took 5 hours to count, because it is still in the public domain. So the statement that the office of the special prosecutor released, which I'm sharing on the screen, was very, very brief. It says, on Thursday, 20th July 2023, the Office of the Special Prosecutor commenced investigations into the suspected corruption and corruption-related offences involving the former Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources, Cecilia Abena-Dapaah, in respect of large sums reportedly stolen from her house. The Office of the Special Prosecutor has since then taken a number of steps and actions, including placing Ms. Dapaah under arrest and conducting searches in 2 residential properties associated with her. Now, the statement also goes further to talk about the OSP is still conducting its investigation. The public will be briefed on the outcome of the investigation when it is concluded, including any steps the office may take. Now, you would notice that this statement has not addressed the rumor that came out yesterday about more money discovered and almost 5 hours. We are picking information that deep throat sources working at the office of the special prosecutor have already given this information out. Whether it is true or not, I cannot vouch or verify for any of the parties. But the question is, why did this statement stop short of addressing the issue of more discoveries in the house? Because it gives room for suspicion, for rumor mongering, and so on. Because we thought that this is so much a high profile, very serious potential criminal case that the updates should have been on daily basis and not to keep people in suspense. So tonight, we want to speak to an anti-graft campaigner. Vitus Azim is a former executive director of the Ghana Integrity Initiative, the Ghana chapter of Transparency International. He'll be joining us by Zoom. That is the original plan. If the last time we spoke to him, he was still on his way to his house. And if that is not possible, obviously, we'll be speaking to him on phone to get a brief reaction. And our second topic is on the expectations ahead of the presentation of the mid-year budget review. Apparently, it was supposed to be done yesterday. Later, we had Thursday. Now, we are told it will be done on Monday. And so we'll be looking at IMF's watchdog role. And again, we'll be looking at some critical observations that the World Bank has made. And then we'll be looking at your budget expectations. I'll be speaking to a financial economist and an adjunct senior lecturer at the University of Professional Studies here in Accra. He's already in the studio. I'll be introducing him very shortly. But may I know if Vitus Azim is on the line? If he is, let's quickly have the brief interview with him, and then we'll talk about. Okay, so I'm told that the line is very busy, okay, I'm told we have Vitus Azim on the line. Good evening, sir, and thanks for your time. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Right, we are grateful for your time this evening. It's going to be a very brief interview. Now, the first question is, you spoke strongly when the news broke. You made some critical questions and you thought that the police could have acted appropriately. I also heard you make reference to the Ghana Revenue Authority that they should be interested in this case. As we speak, the Office of the Special Prosecutor has made some moves. So far, if you look at what has happened, her resignation, the reaction, the move by the Office of the Special Prosecutor, what would you say? Going well?
Well, going well, but not adequate. Like I said, I mentioned about 4 different instances. The GRA, because some people already came out to say, oh, she's a business person, she's somebody of her own. So if she's doing business or whatever, GRA should be interested in what business is doing, whether she's paying taxes on it. The Commission for Human Rights should look at her asset declaration, whether any assets to the tune that has been mentioned have been declared by her on assuming office. And then the Financial Intelligence Center needs to look at whether there has been in a suspicious moment of act where this money is taken from the bank. How did the money end up in the house? So these are still questions that need to be asked. A special prosecutor may be looking at the corruption-related issues, suspicion that this money could have been illegally acquired. But it may not look at all the aspects of the issues, the case. So that's why I still think that it's in a good direction, but then it may not be adequate to address all the issues.
Okay, so
but what is even worrying is that this amount was stolen. Do we know how much else was left in the house? Because if you're an intelligent thief living with people and you are stealing, you would not like to just pick everything so that the owner will realize it. So it's possible that some monies are left in the house. But even further is the fact that this is just one person, one political appointee. Do we know how much is in the houses of other political appointees?
Okay, so I will take this to be your opening remark. Just a while ago, I shared the webpage of the Financial Intelligence Center. I believe my team will put it on the screen, where you have some critical stakeholders. You have the Office of the Special Prosecutor, you have the Ghana Police Service, and then you have IOCO. So many people would have thought that at the time the complaint was lodged, the obligation of the Ghana Police Service, knowing the quantum of the money involved, would have been to trigger some action by informing the related officers. The police obviously failed and they went to court. Was this a surprise or pure negligence of duty or influence?
It's difficult to make any conclusion on that. It could be that they just thought they didn't think it was necessary for them to go beyond. It was like they thought maybe there was a victim that had come to complain, make a complaint to them. It did not occur to them that maybe there should have been more to it than we are now seeing. That could be one. So maybe negligence of duty. But of course, you cannot also be sure that it wasn't deliberate to try to do hush, not to take it up the way it has now come. So I think it's too early for us to conclude that, because I think it was around July last year or November last year. And so, yes, you'll be questioning, why is it that the police never even found it necessary to report this information to the necessary authorities? Because even the Bank of Ghana, if you are found to have taken so much money out of the bank or put so much money into the bank, they're supposed to try to find out the source of these monies.
No, so at this stage...
So why not the police as well?
So at this stage, do you think that the Office of the Special Prosecutor's work will be very difficult? Because as we speak, there are rumors of more discoveries. This rumor went viral yesterday. The Office of the Special Prosecutor has issued a statement that investigations are ongoing, but it leaves gap for rumor mongering. Should the office have addressed the speculation or the insider filler that suggested that they've made more discoveries, because it was silent on it and many people believe it was true?
Well, the special prosecutor, both the current one and the past one, have indicated that when they are doing investigations and they have not been able to establish wrongdoing, they do not want to come out and make certain things public, because they may be denting the image of the individuals involved. But the way the pictures were being displayed on social media, it could be from its own internal sources, and that raises eyebrows and suspicions. So, well, the special prosecutor may decide to wait, because they have said that they will come out with the information on the findings. So maybe we cannot blame it now, because they also want to protect the interest, the integrity of the person they are investigating.
Okay, so finally, before you go, sir, the Office of the Special Prosecutor will do its work. But because of past experiences, there are skeptics who believe that it may have a bigger challenge because of some strings that may be pulled from behind. What should it do differently? Because this case cannot die a natural death.
You see, as for the strengths, you should expect them. The president has already come out to say that I hope that you will, or is it that I'm sure that you will be exonerated from these allegations. which was very unfortunate for him to have made. Certain party people have also come out to give certain excuses for what happened. So definitely there will be an attempt to pull strings, particularly because these things, when the opposition jumps in, and I think that the opposition need to be very cautious when it comes to these things. When the opposition jumps in, then they see it as partisans, and then the ruling party thinks that they must defend themselves. So definitely there will be issues there, because if she is found to have done something wrong, the opposition will say, "Oh, we even told that your party is corrupt, your opponents are corrupt," and the government party will not want that. So I would not be surprised if there are strings that are pulled, no matter how strong or strongly the Office of Special Prosecutor decides to do its work. Because at the end of the day, if it requires prosecution, somebody can tell a special prosecutor, you cannot do that. So we just hope that things will go in the right direction, that at the end of the day, everybody will be rendered justice.
Okay, so maybe a minute
will not lose.
Maybe a minute of your time before, because I understand you are still on your way home. Now, because of how people are interested in this case, do you think that an independent body could have been given this opportunity for fairness to all parties?
Well, I've mentioned a number of institutions already. An independent body is appointed by who? Not appointed by the president or the executive. At the end of the day, that independent body may not have power to prosecute if it's found that some wrong will be done. So maybe it's time that we allow the state institutions, give them the necessary independence and resources to do their work, rather than an independent institution. Because after all, the independent institution is also going to be appointed by the same appointed authority, and it will be paying allowance, state allowance, and all that. So I think that that may not be a solution either.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Vitus Azim, former executive director for Ghana Integrity Initiative, sharing some views on the challenge the Office of the Special Prosecutor will face looking at what I call Cecilia Dapper Gate. In the studio with me is Dr. Nene Adams Asafote. He's a financial economist and adjunct senior lecturer, SOGS UPSA. What does the SOGS mean?
School of Graduate Studies.
School of Graduate Studies. Yes. I hope you get me admission to come and do some course there in due course.
We have a lot of courses there.
You are welcome.
That will serve you well, really.
You are welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yes, he's here actually for us to talk about some economic issues, but this issue cannot just be brushed aside without your comment on it. First of all, $1 million, 300,000 euros, several millions of cedis, which should have been at the bank. Just today, I'm picking information that another case involving huge sums of money stashed in somebody's home. It's a lawyer, and from the information I picked, it's over $114,000 in somebody's home, 800 pounds, and other huge sums of money. The case is in court. Now, from where you sit as an economist, if you hear, and of course we know it is happening, such huge sums in people's homes, how does this really affect us as a group of people living in a country which is struggling with its city?
Good evening, and thank you for having me on your show again. It's been quite a while since we interacted together. And good evening to Ghanaians, good evening to your listeners. Mm-hmm. The issue is that it is quite disturbing, worrying when you see these things, especially that we are in serious difficulties now. But you see, a lot of the time, if you sit back and watch carefully the trail of events, the way things are happening in the economy, for me, I say that this is just a tip of the huge iceberg that is waiting to, if you like, defrost. If you watch from the beginning of things, and I always mention, how things started and how it appears that everybody was on a lookout for something for himself or for herself. And you can liken this to the gold rush story. We've had, if you know about the gold rush,
I know about that story.
where those days in the early or mid-19th century, people found gold and then they rush in there to make sure that they get, a part of it. The most popular one was the one that happened in California in 1849, thereabout. And people rush just so that they can also get some part of the gold. And make something out of it. For me, that is what is happening now. And
mad rush for Ghana money.
And it is that serious. So $1 million, $2 million is just the tip of the iceberg. We track what comes into this economy largely. You cannot be that correct, but you can estimate between 80 and 85% of total revenue monies that come into the economy over a certain period of time. Really, you can. And so if you look at those things, the monies that come into the economy and how those monies are utilized, and the impact of those monies that come into the economy, you realize that something is not adding up. If you look at the bank sector cleanup, something has not added up. If you look at the PDS deal, something has not added up. If you look at, payments made for contracts, to be undertaken, so to say, and you will not find anything on the ground.
There is one particular statement I pulled deliberately for this conversation.
Okay.
Now, my producers will help me. When it's ready, they will share it on the screen. If you look at the dossier I picked from Cecilia Dape's case, where we have groups of information, letters and reactions and so on, you will see one which focuses on releases by the directive from the Finance Ministry and Controller Accountant General's Department acknowledging, which is to the sum of 100 million cedis. It was released to the account of dredge masters at the Bank of Ghana. Now, when it is on the screen, you realize that the letter was written on the 16th and then 17th March, the money was released. So if you can pause it, it says that the director, Banking Department, Bank of Ghana, it says bank transfer advice, Ministry of Finance letter, blah, 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 16th March 2022 refers to, and the copy attached, please transfer 100 million cedis from the sanitation and pollution account at the Bank of Ghana into the account details below. And it goes on to talk about dredge masters, the account, Omni BSIC Bank at Ahianyo. And then you notice that directive is given on the 16th, immediately on the 17th. Now, the question is, this sanitation and pollution account, dredge masters will know what they are doing. So it means that if the job is not executed and the money is released, it is possible the money can go into wrong hands.
No, the point is that, letters like this, if you just follow the letter per se, you may not be getting, enough information. The first thing is, what is the nature of the contract? What is it that dredge masters are, guys are supposed to do? If they receive the money, is it meant for, let's say, mobilization? Is it advance payment? Is it, whether they've worked, they've raised certificate and, they are being paid for it? Okay. If that is not the case, some funds have gone in. You now have to go to the grounds to find out whether these people are doing their work. And so this is a matter that should not be confused with this particular one. Yes, the letter is from, relates the sanitation ministry, but let us make sure that we...
People are raising these things for several reasons. There are supposed to be institutions which have oversight responsibilities. Apart from that, there are quasi-institutions who also have to either audit or monitor and ensure that monies that are supposed to be released are released for job done. And so the speculation out there is that, for all you know, monies have been released for job that is not done. People are asking question that, does she have real estate? Is it possible that she sold real estate and the money was given out? If the money was given out, what is the role of the Ghana Revenue Authority? So you realize that there are some potholes of things that we have to fill, that will ensure that we have a system that is perfect, which is easy. And so the Office of the Special Prosecutor may have some long or maybe wide areas to look at for potential sources if the explanations are not satisfactory enough. Because yesterday, for example, one of the media platforms was trying to put out some information that the money was belonging to relatives, and then he was able to apportion how much may have been for the minister and others bequeathed to the minister by dead relatives.
The point is this: for sure, the investigators will come out with the truth behind this whole thing. The thing about money is that you cannot easily clean, you know, if you like, how do we call it? The trail
your footsteps, okay, the
of
trail.
money like that. It is not that easy. If you just hold in some few cedis, some few dollars, from few pounds, you think, oh no, you can put it in your pocket. But real money, you can't just clean your trail like that.
What do you call real money?
And so, because the money should have been coming from somewhere,
There should be proof.
it is coming from a bank. The bank will have its stamp on the money, showing that the money came from us, and this is the day that the money came from us to you.
Which will be on the bundle.
It will be on the bundle. And they will have to go to that bank and find out if indeed you took money from there and from which account. Where did you take it? Where did the money come from into that account? And so you cannot clean it like that. Somebody can take it from here, give it somewhere, convey it, whatever, but at the end of the day, we can be able to trace the source. But the point that I'm trying to make is that the situation at hand is more serious than we are seeing now. I was mentioning the issues. You remember in 2020, some 52.5 billion got transferred to some unknown accounts, right?
Right.
That money is about 9 billion at the exchange rate of 5.82
At the time.
at the time. 9 billion US dollars. Today we are going for $3 billion. And so if you found $1 million
It's peanut.
somewhere, some few euros somewhere, and you are shouting, really, I'm just telling you that.
Could it be the reason why the president didn't sound as an alarmist and just brush the whole thing to be an ordinary incident, and so the woman perhaps could be exonerated? Because for many of us, $1 million is a huge sum of money.
And it's a huge sum of money for me as well, really. So the point is that it gets to a time that you cannot keep certain things under the carpet anymore. Where we've gotten to, I was citing the gold rush story, that everybody is going for it. Everybody is going for it. And I also want to liken it to the story of the birth of Jesus Christ. You remember when he was born, and then the 3 wise men came to Jerusalem asking about the king of the Jews and all of that, right? And then the wise men were directed to Herod's palace. When he heard that a king was born, then he said, oh, really? And go, find that boy, and let me also come and do
Worship him.
Very well. But rather, he had plans of doing what?
Just eliminating the child.
Very well. My point is that these are signs for us. What action did Herod take? He instructed that they should go and do what? Kill all boys within a certain age within the Judean territories. Is that the case? I am saying that if we are serious, if we want to give ourselves a test, Let us go look for the boy. And this country will be on fire. Not because it will be burning out of civil war or whatever, but the things that we'll find will be mind-boggling. Look, I tell you this, that I said that the monies that we have received between 2017 and now, if we have used those monies well for productive purposes,
we shouldn't be here.
Our GDP will be in excess of $1 trillion by now. This is an estimate that we can sit down and simulate, and you get my point. Would have been at 2025, 2026, GDP levels. Now, when that happens, our debt to GDP will be at just around 50, 55, 60%. You and I will have leverage. There will be a lot of relief in the system. Okay, but it's been messed up, really. I say, let's go and look for the boys, and you will see what will happen.
Well, my guest in the studio is Dr. Nene Adams Asafote. He's a financial economist and an adjunct senior lecturer at the School of Graduate Studies at the University of Professional Studies here in Accra. You will recall that this is not the first time of money either being stolen or found or being flaunted. There were some videos some time ago, just around 2020, where somebody who we are told was the driver or a staff at the home or office of the former Dr. KK Sapon,
yes.
And there were bundles of Ghana cedis, 100 cedi notes and dollars, which they were displaying and then packing. So the assumption is that as many people as possible could be keeping millions or thousands or hundreds of thousands of either dollars or cedis in their homes. Now, if it is so, is it something that is difficult for Bank of Ghana or those who are supposed to be stakeholders to track? And what are the implications for the cedi dollar parity ratio, etc., or the concerns we have had and its effect on our economy? But this Cecilia Dapa Gate is just one of the many issues I talked about at the beginning as things that are unfolding or are yet to be addressed, because there are other critical issues that may have been shelved. Before we talk about the economy, the budget, media budget expectations, what the IMF is doing, what the World Bank is observing, recommendations here and there, I want to remind you of a few critical issues that may have been shelved, but they have not died. The first one, you remember, Asen North, there were sharing of money, people gave testimonies. We had videos of people who were actually caught on tape, either sharing money or receiving money. The Office of the Special Prosecutor is supposed to be investigating this. Where did the money come from? And so there are several issues. I remember some time ago there were rumors that the driver of the Western Regional Minister, a very good friend of mine, had stolen these 17 million cedis and so on and so forth. He came to deny, and up till now we don't know how far that case has gone and what may have triggered that rumor of so much money that was stolen. Now we also know that there have been police killings at Botiano, for example, and there are issues about so how far has the issue gone? Because chiefs there are complaining and they want an independent body to follow. But the critical one that is key to next year is this leaked tape about a plot to remove the IGP. And this tape is talking about the need to place some people in certain key positions to make it easy to rig the 2024 elections. And that brings to question an issue that will come back again in the next few days, if it is not weeks from this day as I speak. The Electoral Commission, the National Identification Authority. Remember that the EC is bent on going to Parliament to put a CI there that will compel every new voter to use the Ghana card to register. And the NIA has gone to Parliament to say that, oh, everything is fine, everything is okay, and we are ready to support the EC. But at Asen North, I heard an interview that raised eyebrows about why the NIA must be watched by everybody because of the connivance with the Electoral Commission. Now listen to this tape, and you will hear that they are mentioning Ken Atefa, who was at Asen North supporting the NPP agents and helping them because NPP's main objective was to win the Asen North seat. Now listen to this conversation between Paul Adumotre, Kojo Frimpong, and Obo.
I think the work has been on the ground. We're walking into people's homes, bringing them. I donated my car. Everybody's pitching in. This election is so important to the MPP. Why? Because we think that it has significance across the country. This is the one that's going to project the party as having done well, even in the face of challenges from COVID, from all the other challenges that we faced. So it was very important that we show that kind of organization. And by Jove, I think that the people who led the party into this election, they've done a great job. If we win this, it's all tribute and credit to them.
Obo, Asante Achim is looking good, I believe. But what have you found so far here?
So just like Kwesi was saying, it's been a good organization. I've been stationed at Enja Catholic School. I've been there from the morning together with Professor Ken Atefa. That polling station is an MPP stronghold. It's a total of 687 registered voters.
Now, the reason why I said it is very, very key is that many people may not have paid attention to this interview. Professor Ken Atefa, National Identification Authority, Ghana card. Rumors that some people have deliberately been denied access to the Ghana card. The fact that Ghana card access to it is now being made for the highest bidder. If you can't pay, you won't get it. And the fact that there's been discrimination in allocating resources there. It is key. This issue will come up very soon because I know Kodeyo has raised issues about appointment to the EC. The NDC has officially petitioned the Christian Council, the Peace Council, critical stakeholders, the foreign embassies, and so on. That case has been shelved. I don't know why they are not speaking to it, but I bet you it will begin to stoke fire in this country in the coming days. Now, my guest tonight is going to have a conversation with me about the mid-year budget review presentation, which we expect will be done Monday. But prior to that, we know that the IMF has been in town. We've had the first tranche of our bailout. We also know that the World Bank has been in and out, and there's been recommendations to government and so on. Now, Doc, if you look at the 600 million cedis we got, the cry over the possibility of another round of domestic debt exchange, you want to look at the supervision by the IMF, and then Ghana's wish to meet the conditionalities. Where we are and the indicators that are out, do you think this mid-year budget will be a tough one for Ken Ofori-Atta?
Well, I would ask your permission to make a small comment on the issue.
The tape I played.
Very well. I want to let our president, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, to know, and I believe that he knows, that one of the key legacies of any democratically elected president is to make sure that he organizes free, fair, and transparent elections, at least for the people that he will be leaving office for. If you come into the presidency, you come around the country and you are not able to do anything, even if you are not able to do anything at all,
leave the country in peace.
Leave the country in peace. And therefore, it is his duty, responsibility to make sure that 2024 general elections is free, fair, and transparent. The comment that he is going to hand over to an NPP president on January 7th, 2025 is misplaced. His job is to make sure that he runs the elections well. Whoever wins, he hands over power to that person. Because if you don't do that, and the country fails, the country heads into the obese, you will bear the consequences. That is key. I am saying this because we have seen how 2020 elections went. The intimidations, the harassments, the refusal of people to exercise their rights, some people not having representation in parliament even till today.
The killings at
the killings,
South, for example,
and all
has
of
not
that
been investigated.
He needs to, a friend of mine will say, polish my face. He needs to polish his face by ensuring that 2024 general elections goes on smoothly.
Okay, we don't have much time, but I was speaking to the media budget review, and I was saying that for you as a financial economist, you obviously will have issues about the economy as your daily bread. Now, after monitoring how far we have come, the Bank of Ghana recently talked about some positive indicators. From where you sit and the books that you see, do you think that the Minister of Finance has a huge task putting together a media budget review?
You know that we've gotten the facility now.
Right.
Yes. And you also know that it came with conditionalities.
Right.
It is telling us specifically the things that we should do. We all know those things. Fiscal reforms, structural reforms, consolidation, you know, all of our revenues, we want to make sure that they are, you know, coordinated. We bring them onto one platform, make sure that governance is in proper shape and all of that. Bank of Ghana can no longer be printing money. Somebody is sitting there and watching over our shoulders. The same thing I believe is happening at Ministry of Finance, right?
Right.
Now that gives me a lot of comfort that at least there's going to be some form of control over how much gold you pick on the field. You remember the gold rush?
Right.
Yeah. You can't pick as much as you so. These are now.
You can't waste money, basically.
So that gives a lot of comfort. Now, on the side of the finance minister, the finance ministry, it's a tall order. When the 2023 budget was read, I made a statement that we got to cut down expenditure by around 40% on a competitor TV station. And the response was that, oh, then what is government going to live on? But when we go back, we look at the figures. We have to move into surplus by 2025, 2026 that way. That means that we got to cut down expenditure, make sure that we close the deficit gap and begin to create buffer.
You expect that to happen in the media budget?
That got to happen.
Now, while the conversation is ongoing, you would notice the producers, I believe, are signaling me that you'll be sharing on the screen the Bank of Ghana, some data on macroeconomic statistics, so that while we are having the conversation, those of you can read, can be going through the figures. But go ahead.
So he has to do it anyway. He has to make sure that he prepares the budget according to the structure provided by both the executive board and the ministry's representatives prior to the approval of the facility. Now,
if you look at the screen, for example, now our debt portfolio has actually gone out over 500 and something billion cedis.
Yes.
Now, the Bank of Ghana's report just released some days ago is talking about external debt, which is increased to 321.4 billion compared to 240.9 billion. Domestic debt, which is also rising, and now 247.9 billion cedis from 232 billion. The budget deficit first 5 months dropped to 1.8%. Now, it is talking about some indicators suggesting that there's some improvement. Total export in first half decreased to 8.2 billion. Import declined, trade surplus widened, gold exports climbed up, cocoa shipments rose, oil shipments dropped, and then other exports largely unchanged at 1.6 billion.
Very well.
Now, if you look at these, what does this tell you?
Well, so you realize that our debt level has shot up a little bit.
Right.
What that implies is that aside of maybe some little money market, bills that the government may have issued, there were some BOG, when we're talking of Bank of Ghana printing money, now those ODs have to come in. So you realize that the domestic component, shot up by slightly higher margin. And so that's what you see there. When you look at our export, sites, the gold, the oil, and all of those things.
It's on the screen now.
Very good. You realize that we are not performing per target. That then implies that if we don't work on our expenditure, because when we don't do much of that, then revenue suffers. We're going to do what? Not be able to close the deficit, gap. And that is not going to be good for us.
Which raises an issue about revenue mobilization, introduction of taxes that businesses are fighting and expect that it will be waived when we go into the media budget.
Yes, people are talking about taxes being waived or the possibility of some additional taxes being added. For me, I say that if we are able to do the gift mix platform, the GitMe's, or the receivables platform, if we are able to coordinate all of that together, and they really wanted us to do that now, by now there should be consultants making sure that that thing is ongoing. And don't forget, we have the IT infrastructure there already. By kind courtesy of JDM, the infrastructure.
And that was around 2015,
very
2016,
good. So we
when
have
it was
that.
set up.
So it's not that we are not going
to... With the IMF sitting at the Bank of Ghana or the Finance Ministry as a watchman, once the platform is there, government obviously will be compelled to go and then operate within that system, which is supposed to check how monies are moved in and out.
So the whole point that I'm trying to raise is that if that platform is probably, coordinated, that means that all payments or all revenues will be received, appropriately, number one. Then we go to the, receiving end and make sure that the revenues that we deserve actually come in. In that case, we'll see a surge, some reasonable level of surge in our revenue streams, and that will then help us a little bit. And so I'm saying that instead of saying that, oh, I'm going to look for some additional taxes, probably let's look at how to expand the tax base, because that's what we always talk about. What is the percentage of people that pay tax? What is it? Currently, we are around 13–14% of GDP, right? We could go as much as probably 18, 20, 22.
So you are talking about direct taxes.
Yes.
But the fact is that if businesses are not thriving,
very well,
because of the high level of taxation, which they have complained about, and just recently data from the Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority suggested that the arrivals of cargo to our port has gone down because they are moving to neighboring countries. So Cote d'Ivoire and Togo are taking a larger chunk of the traffic, which would have ordinarily come to Ghana, and therefore revenue from the port obviously will go down. Now, if people who are supposed to be operating break even and pay taxes are sweating, obviously whether you widen it or not, you won't get what you need. You can't eat your cake and have it.
Exactly. So that is actually the case. But all that I am saying now is that even in the circumstances, you will see that our revenues, is not picking up that much. And that is why, beginning of year, I said that the projection of 144, we're not going to have it.
Now, there's another issue.
So we if we are able to coordinate and synchronize these platforms, then possibly the little revenue that we're supposed to receive will come. That's the first thing. The second thing is that what are the things that we have to do in order to stimulate growth, in order to bring about business confidence, in order to make sure that businesses begin to thrive again. Well, if you look at the duty paid at the port, for instance, is problematic. But it's also because the dollar CD rate is that huge. Then it also means then that we have to fight inflation. Because if you fight inflation and we're able to tame it to around maybe, will it ever be so 8, 9, to the dollar,
just
you will see...
Of course, I understand you, but just 3 days ago,
Yes.
Bank of Ghana increases the policy rate from 29.5% to 30%.
Yes.
Bank of Ghana's explanation is that it is fighting inflation. We know inflation is around 42%. It's been shooting up gradually over the past 3 months
Yes.
after we saw some nosedive. Now, if what they did could not fight inflation at the time, and it's now gradually going up and policy rate will affect lending rates, then what does all this mean?
Let me say this to you, that the issue of inflation, if you can have time, let us find one fine day on this program for us to discuss it thoroughly. I have always been of the opinion that the idea of using the policy rate to fight inflation is not working. It has never worked, and it will not work. Because the nature of our inflation is a little bit different. We are having inflation because of too much wastage in the system. We're having inflation because there's a lot of pressure.
And at the time, printing of money in the system.
Exactly. Now, and that's why I'm saying that we have to have some time to discuss it, so that if you go and increase policy rates, what we are saying is that cost of money is going to go up. But in our system, we normally use cash. A lot of the transaction is done by cash. So all that you are doing is that if you raise the policy rate, then you are explaining that anybody that uses the cash system, the banking system, will have to pay a little bit more. But then most of our transactions are done in cash, and so then the policy will not bite.
It's like you are transferring the percentage range to...
Exactly.
Okay, now, but we don't have much time. I want to share something very instructive with you, because I was reading a text that Isaac Adongo put out, and maybe it will be shared. Now, Isaac Adongo is suggesting that IMF's gatekeeping role has exposed government, and these are excerpts which he put out just about 2-3 days ago. It says he named it "IMF compliance mechanisms has exposed Bank of Ghana's reporting shortfalls and vindicates Mahama and the NDC." Now, the preamble was former President John Mahama in 2018 raised issues about clever accounting reporting of national accounts by the government, shockingly aided by the governor of the central bank, that is Dr. Ernest Addison. He talks about the Bank of Ghana led by Dr. Addison and his team in 2017 inflating Ghana's gross international reserves, adding that it encumbered funds, which is contrary to the standard methodology and the different from the IMF balance of payment manual 5 BPM's computation. The assertion by the NDC was affirmed by the then IMF country representative to Ghana, Dr. Albert Tonamana. You remember there was a program on multimedia, Joy FM News File, where the IMF boss called into the program, and later it became some kind of a brouhaha. Now, the third point I picked from Isaac Adongo's write-up is that IMF presence has forced out the truth about Bank of Ghana's machinations after several years of hiding our true revenues. And then now the instructive point that he has put out there is that the Bank of Ghana in its July 2023 summary of economic and financial data included a new row for the first time called gross international reserves, including encumbered assets, and goes on. And he is just simply suggesting that in December 2022, it was quoting $6.2 billion. But their July 2023 report is showing actual position is 1.4 billion.
Very well.
Now, there were about 3 questions. It says, where is this sudden depletion from? And it goes on, and I'm sure people will read while we chat. Is this a surprise? Is it something we have we have dug a hole for ourselves?
Well, when I saw this, I was just smiling, because way back we said that the government is not reporting our reserve positions correctly to us. But nobody will hear us. Nobody will listen to us. And then you just go and sit here somewhere. Because we have depleted our reserves, we had to find alternative ways of getting oil into this country. So they generated a gold for oil package, right? You remember that one. Luckily, IMF says that you cannot do that anymore. They are the Bank of Ghana, and everything they will ask you, what about this? What is happening to this? And you need to bring it back. And so the moment those ones were brought up, quickly, your reserve position goes down, and you see your debt component. You see it rising up there. So these are the things. What that I'm saying is that let us also have some interest in our key indicators, because at the end of the day, what you are seeing on the board, those are the things that in the medium term will be reflective in your
books,
in your lifestyle, in your way of living, in the standard of living that you as the individual will be experiencing. And therefore, we got to make sure that we take interest in that. If you're running a country, at least reserve, I think that we're having around 11 billion or 13 billion thereabouts some time back, and that would take us about 3 or 5 months of import cover. Now it's been reduced. It's reduced to somewhere to
1.4, which is just
under
about
2
2
months.
Yeah.
So that is dangerous. When that happens, it means that nobody has confidence in your ability to pay. So now they'll be demanding outright payment at every...
Or high interest rates on bonds or whatever you want to raise. Unfortunately, we don't have much time. The two topics are quite interesting, very sensitive. The Minister of Finance, obviously Monday, will be presenting the mid-year budget review. But there are some headaches that they may have to take some painkillers to address, especially with IMF sitting on the fence with the eyes peeping into everything government does, either at the Bank of Ghana or at the Ministry of Finance. Because as we speak, we know that government owes the independent power producers huge sums of money, over $1.7 billion. They are negotiating payment. Electricity Company of Ghana is promising to raise revenue to pay them in tranches, and government will be supporting along the line. It's hanging. Another round of domestic debt exchange program is also on the table. We don't know how it will start because the labor unions, organized labor, have been very specific that don't go near their pension money. Apart from that, government is still ambitiously looking at Agenda 111. Apart from that, we also know that government has to pay for some services. We know a lot of demands are out there, fixing roads here and there. So it's a tall order, and we are also looking at what government would want to do to be in will be considered as a favorite of majority of Ghanaians because they want to break the 8. It's not going to be easy. Tighten your belt. Pray that Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta may listen to people who are crying for a waiver of some taxes. If that happens, there may be some breathing space, but that may not be enough. Your concluding words before we sign off.
Okay. First of all, I would want to tell Ghanaians that we should not overjubilate on the arrival of the 3 billion EFC facility. I mean, the IMF ECF, actually, Enhanced Credit Facility. Because if you look at the Eurobond maturities, okay, between now and 2026 ending, we have about $2.939 billion to pay in, principals alone.
Within the period?
Within the period of the facility. So that means that the facility has come just to give us some level of confidence, operate, and of course, essentially to use that money to pay for these maturities. Yes, the money will come, but then which you can use for something else, but the revenue that you will generate will have to be, we have to make sure that it's available for that payment to be done. And so it's going to take care of that. Number two, that between 2027 and 2030, we have some 3 billion again to pay. 2030 and 2030, way down into 2060. And so our future is really tight up. We need to now look at the people playing the game with us and begin to question them at every move. We got to make sure that politicians are accountable. We got to make sure that every CD that we receive is utilized properly.
I want to end you there, unfortunately.
I have not even started making it.
Yes, but unfortunately, the time is up. I pray that after Monday,
yes,
when the budget statement is read, I'm promising those who are watching us that among those who will be discussing what is out, because the preamble has been to look at the challenges, the critical issues that will come to play in what will inform the budget statement. Wednesday, same time, you'll be part of those who will be discussing the issues, and you have time to speak to it. My guest has been Dr. Nene Adams Asafotai, financial economist and adjunct senior lecturer, School of Graduate Studies, University of Professional Studies, Accra. I also spoke to Vitus Azim, an anti-graft campaigner, former executive director of the Ghana Integrity Initiative, on the Cecilia Dapa Gate, as I call it, and he raised some interesting issues. My name is Ahianyo. Tomorrow, between 1 and 2 o'clock, this program will be repeated. Don't forget, tomorrow, the Mensaka. Tomorrow, we've been talking about the fact that you've been one of our loyal viewers or listeners of our programs on TVXYZ, Power FM. We are rewarding you through an interesting package we call Mensaka promotion. Tomorrow, don't forget that you dial *274#. You follow the prompt, 5 CDs per stake, and you have standing the chance of getting some instant reward into your Momo account. Tomorrow to be launched here on TV XYZ between 4 and 5 o'clock. So that's it. Bye for now. Draw